Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. I didn't sleep that night, but 3 days later, the game flipped, and they didn't see it coming. My name's Drew. I'm 27 from a little town outside Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd been living up in Lexington for the past couple years, working at a hospital and socking away whatever I could. Nights, weekends, sometimes double shifts. Every dollar went into that savings account, 23 grand. It wasn't much, not in the big scheme, but it was mine. I came home for the holidays expecting the usual, my mom's dry turkey, some weird passive-aggressive comment from my dad, and hopefully a few hours watching TV with Grandpa before Connor started drama. I pulled into the driveway and noticed two things immediately. Grandpa's Buick was in its usual spot, but Connor's beat-up Civic was gone. That was weird, since he was the reason I'd come back at all. Mom said they needed help keeping him on track. Inside the house, it was dead quiet. Just Grandpa, sitting at the kitchen table with half a sandwich in front of him and a pill organizer beside it. I stepped in and gave him a half smile. "Hey, old man, where is everyone?" He looked up, his hand shaky as he set the sandwich down. "Cancun?" he said, like it was obvious. "Cancun?" He nodded toward the fridge. "They left you a note." I walked over, thinking it was going to be something dumb, like, "Take care of the dog" or "leftovers in the fridge." Instead, it was scrawled on the back of a Walgreens receipt, stuck on with a magnet shaped like a cow. "Use your savings for Connor. Watch him this week." Cancun. Mom and Dad, I swear I didn't even blink. My body just kind of went numb. $23,000. Gone. The account I'd been pouring into since I was 19, night shifts, busted knees, ramen dinners, all of it. Gone like it meant nothing. I opened the banking app on my phone. Sure enough, the balance was $2. 37. "They'll regret this, son," Grandpa said, his hand landing on mine, trembling but firm. "They think you're still a kid, but you're not. You're the only adult in this house now." I didn't say anything. I just stared at the note again, like if I looked long enough, the words would rearrange themselves into something else, something that made sense. I asked about Connor. "Is he upstairs?" Grandpa shook his head. "Took my car. Said he was going to the pharmacy. That was 4 days ago." 4 days. 4. My folks had left me a drugged-out 21-year-old brother to babysit, stolen my savings, and pieced out to a beach resort. I should have been furious. I should have punched a wall. But I just felt empty, hollowed out, like all the fight had drained out before I even showed up. That night, I sat on the porch with Grandpa, a beer in my hand and my jaw clenched tight. I kept thinking about that note, about the fact that they hadn't even asked. Not a conversation, not a warning, just took it. Grandpa didn't say much. He just watched the street like something might appear. After a while, he said real quiet, "They never should have done that to you. But it's not over. I know you. You're not done." And he was right. 3 days later, the game flipped. And they didn't see it coming. I trusted her with everything. Turned out she couldn't be trusted at all. That was the part that kept eating at me. Not just that the money was gone, though that alone was enough to wreck me, but that it was my own mother who did it. Not a stranger, not a scam. My mom. The worst part? I should have seen it coming. Back when I was 16, Dad lost his job at the aluminum plant. I remember the night he came home, sat down at the kitchen table and didn't speak for an hour. Just kept staring at the wall like he was trying to burn a hole through it. Mom took a part-time gig at the pharmacy, but it didn't cover much. So I picked up the slack. Morning paper route before school, night shift washing dishes at a diner off Route 9. I missed prom, skipped every football game. My whole life became work and sleep, and even that was only if I was lucky. Meanwhile, Connor was 10 and living like nothing changed. Still in travel baseball, still had Xbox Live, still getting new cleats every spring. When I asked about it, Mom said, "He needs normalcy, Drew. You're older, you get it." That was the first time I swallowed it down and told myself it was temporary, that I'd take care of things until we all got back on our feet. But that day never came. I kept working. A hospital janitor by the time I was 19, enrolled in night classes. I didn't party. I didn't date. I didn't do anything that cost more than $5, and every month I'd hand Mom $800 to put into the future fund she insisted on managing for me. "You don't want banks getting you stuck with fees and nonsense," she'd said, waving off my concerns. "Let me hold on to it for now. I'll keep it safe. When you graduate, it'll be waiting." That was her line. I'll keep it safe. So I trusted her. For 4 years, I worked double shifts, skipped meals, and lived in a rundown studio apartment with a leak in the ceiling because I believed that money was sitting there, growing, safe, mine, except it wasn't. 6 months before I came home, the account went dry. I only found out because I finally asked to see the balance. That's when the lies started. "Oh, sweetie," she said over the phone, all fake concern. I had to move it around. Some of it went to help Connor with his school stuff. You know how tight things have been. His school stuff. The same brother who dropped out of community college after 3 weeks. The same one who said tests are for sheep and had a vape in his hand every time I saw him. I did the math. It wasn't some emergency withdrawal. It was a slow siphoning. 200 here, 500 there over months until there was nothing left. I tried to stay calm. I called again, asked for details, reads anything. But Mom just kept dodging. "Why are you being so dramatic?" she said. "We're family. This isn't Wall Street." That's when I felt it. The shift. Like I'd finally seen something I'd spent years pretending not to. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. She thought it was hers to take. The thing that broke me, though, was when Grandpa found out. We were sitting in his cluttered living room, bills stacked up beside him like miniature towers. I told him everything, the account, the withdrawals, the excuses. He didn't say a word, just stared out the window for a while. Then he whispered, "She did the same thing to me." I blinked. "What?" "I gave her 30,000, he said, voice flat. Said it was for kitchen repairs. That was 5 years ago. Haven't seen a dime since." I just sat there stunned. She hadn't just stolen from me. She'd done it to him, too. This wasn't a mistake. This was who she was. And for the first time in my life, I stopped making excuses for her. Grandpa's kitchen looked like a war zone. There were dishes crusted with old food stacked in the sink, 2 final notice bills stuck under a fridge magnet shaped like a cat, and the only thing in the fridge was a half-used mustard bottle and a shriveled apple. I opened a cabinet out of instinct, one lonely can of green beans. Expired. 3 years ago. "Have you eaten today?" I asked him. He shook his head like it was no big deal. Didn't feel like cooking. I picked up one of the pans from the drying rack. Dusty. Untouched. "Grandpa, when's the last time you cooked anything?" He hesitated. Then he looked at his hands, opened and closed them slowly. "Can't grip the handles anymore. They shake too much." My stomach sank. "You didn't tell anyone?" "Who would I tell?" he said quietly. "Your mom's always busy. Your dad says he's no good at cooking. Connor," he stopped himself. "Well, Connor hasn't been here." "He didn't come back after they left?" I asked. Grandpa leaned back in his chair. "He said he needed my car to pick up a prescription. Took $20 from my wallet. That was 4 days ago. Mike hasn't called." I checked my phone. Still no response from Connor. I'd texted and left voicemails all week. Nothing. Just silence. Something wasn't adding up. I climbed the stairs to the second floor and pushed open Connor's bedroom door. The stench hit me first. Weed, body spray, and something sour underneath it all. The bed was unmade, the trash overflowing with fast food wrappers and empty Red Bull cans. But what stood out were the pill bottles. Not prescriptions, the kind you get off the street. No labels, some half full, others cracked open and spilled on the desk. Then I saw it, a brand new gaming rig. Tower case, triple monitors, LED lights glowing like a spaceship. At least $2,000 worth of gear. A stack of new sneakers still in their boxes sat beside it. One of them had the price tag still on, $300. I stood there, frozen. The room was a mess, but the stuff was brand new, expensive. He hadn't been broke, he'd been using. I went back downstairs and asked Grandpa if he knew where Connor might be hanging out. "Try Brenda next door," he said. "She sees more than she lets on." So I knocked on Brenda's door. She was in her 70s, wore a visor indoors, and had one of those little dogs that barked like an alarm every time I shifted my weight. "Brenda, sorry to bug you," I said. "Have you seen Connor lately?" She rolled her eyes. "That boy? He's been throwing parties all week. Loud music, kids coming in and out like a parade. Smelled like a damn dispensary every night. You're telling me he's supposed to be living here?" "Parties?" I asked. "Here?" "Where else?" she said. "Told your folks, but your mama said it was just him having friends over." I thanked her and walked back across the yard, my hands shaking. I felt like a fool. They hadn't just left me to babysit a troubled kid. They'd abandoned an addict in Grandpa's house, and I'd walked right into the mess without a clue. That night, I ran a credit check on myself. I was expecting the worst, that maybe Connor had stolen my info too, but the report was clean. No new accounts, no shady activity. Still, I couldn't let it go. I called the bank, asked for a timeline on the withdrawals from the savings account. Your mother was listed as an authorized secondary, the rep said. She began pulling funds 6 months ago. All withdrawals were made in person at local branches. I felt like I'd been punched, not just because the money was gone, but because she hadn't even tried to hide it. No fraud, no ID theft, just a signature and a smile. Back inside, Grandpa sat quietly, a blanket draped over his shoulders. I dropped into the chair beside him. They emptied my account over 6 months. He nodded slowly. Sounds about right. I looked at him. Why didn't you say anything? He sighed. Because I thought it was just me. I didn't know she'd do it to you too. He turned his eyes toward the hallway. We gave them too many chances, Drew. Your mother, she learned early how to avoid discomfort. Never could stand consequences. I didn't say anything. Just sat there, listening to the silence in that cold, crumbling house. They'd sacrificed 2 generations to prop up Connor. And for what? For this. We sat at the kitchen table surrounded by paperwork. Old manila folders, ripped envelopes, faded sticky notes. Grandpa had a small plastic bin where he kept what he called his important stuff. That morning, he let me dig through it. Inside was the truth. The first thing I found was a kitchen renovation loan agreement. $30,000, signed by both Grandpa and my mom. No repayments. No termination clause, just her name and a list of supposed expenses that had nothing to do with granite countertops or tile floors. The next thing, a second mortgage notice dated 3 years ago. Then a stack of credit card statements, all maxed out, all in Grandpa's name, and 2 payday loan printouts with sky-high interest rates flagged for non-payment. He hadn't said much as I read through them. Just sipped his instant coffee and nodded every so often like this was all old news. Why didn't you stop her? I finally asked. His mouth tightened. She said it was to help Connor, told me it was temporary, that he just needed support getting back on track. Back on track from what? He took a deep breath and rubbed his temples. You don't know half of it. That's when he brought out an old contact sheet, numbers he kept in a drawer by the landline. Among them was one labeled Connor, GED officer. I called the number. A tired woman answered. This is Margaret. This is Margaret, probation ed liaison. I introduced myself and explained I was Connor's brother. There was a long pause. Then she sighed. Connor hasn't checked in for 6 weeks. He missed every court-ordered GED appointment. We've sent 3 notices to the house. Last one went certified mail. I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the wall. He wasn't just skipping classes or smoking weed. He was in violation of court orders, probably on the verge of arrest. And my parents? They were on a beach sipping margaritas. As if the day hadn't already dropped enough bombs, one more walked right up to our front door. A tall, twitchy guy in a beanie and a hoodie knocked. I opened it, and he grinned like we were old friends. Yo, this Connor's place? I stiffened. Who's asking? I'm Jay. I'm here to grab that cash his folks said would be here. $800 for the usual. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. You're not getting anything. This is my grandfather's house. Connor doesn't live here anymore. Jay scoffed. Look, man, don't make it weird. They said it'd be under the mat or whatever. I moved closer. You need to leave. Now. His eyes narrowed. Just tell Connor we had a deal. He backed off and disappeared down the street. I watched until he was gone, then went back inside. Friend of Connor's? Grandpa asked, though I could tell from his face he already knew. Dealer, I said. Looking for $800. Grandpa didn't respond right away. He just stared into his coffee. After a moment, he muttered, They've been giving him money behind my back. It wasn't a guess. It was a quiet, painful confirmation. I don't understand, I said. How can they keep justifying this? He's not a kid anymore. He's 21. He's an addict. Grandpa looked up, his eyes misty. Because your mother doesn't know how to sit with pain, and I raised her that way. That hit harder than anything else he'd said. I always bailed her out, he went on. Every bad grade, every breakup, every mistake, I fixed it. I thought I was protecting her. Turns out I just taught her to run, and now she's doing the same with Connor, passing it down like an heirloom. I didn't know what to say. He reached for the folder of loan statements and pushed it toward me. She'll never stop, not unless someone makes her. I nodded slowly. Then I guess it's on us now, because this wasn't a family anymore. It was a machine, and Connor was the engine, and we were the fuel. We found him through Instagram. I hadn't wanted to go looking. Part of me hoped Connor would just show up, apologize, fall back into line, whatever that meant anymore. But Grandpa kept saying we need to know what he's doing before he hurts someone else or himself. So I scrolled through tagged photos, check-ins, dumb videos with cheap rap playing over shaky footage. It didn't take long. There he was in a story post from some kid I didn't recognize, passed out on a couch with a bottle in his lap, wearing sneakers that cost more than my rent and a gold watch that couldn't have been real but looked close enough. The caption said, "Connor Wilden again." I clicked through more posts. Same house, same group of trust fund punks who thought addiction was a vibe. Looked like some party in a McMansion out in Brentwood. Recognize the place? I asked Grandpa. He peered at the screen. That's the Jennings boy's house. His parents own half of the lakefront properties out there. We drove around all day. Hit every skate park, gas station, strip mall, places Connor used to hang when he was 15 and thought tagging a bathroom stall made him deep. It was nearly dark when we pulled up to the mansion. I wasn't even sure anyone was still home until we heard music echoing from the back patio. We didn't bother knocking. I walked in through the open side gate and shouted his name. Nothing. Then I heard coughing from upstairs. Found him in the bathroom, sitting on the floor with his back against the tub, pale and sweating. His eyes were half open, pupils like pinholes. There were orange pill bottles around him, one rolled under the sink. Smelled like vomit and vodka and some kind of fruity vape juice. "Connor," I said, crouching down. His head lolled. "Yo," he mumbled, barely audible. "Sup? You're coming with us." He didn't fight. Didn't argue. I half carried him to the car. Grandpa rode in back with him, hand on his shoulder the whole time. Back home, we sat him down at the kitchen table. I poured him a glass of water and slid it in front of him. Grandpa opened the windows. The cold air felt like a slap to all of us. No one yelled. I didn't have the energy. I just laid it out like math on a whiteboard. "The money's gone," I said. "Mine. Grandpa's. Theirs." He didn't react. "You've been using Grandpa's house like a party pad. You took his car, his meds. We know." Still nothing. "You almost OD'd." His lip trembled. Just a little. "You can't keep doing this. If you don't want help, fine. But it's not going to be here anymore. No more cash. No more cars. No more excuses." He looked up, and for once his face wasn't smug or defensive. It was scared. Real scared. "I don't know how to stop," he whispered. Those 6 words hit harder than any punch he could have thrown. "I want to," he added quickly. "I really do. But I can't even get through a day without needing something. It's like I wake up already drowning." I nodded. "Then we get help. Real help. But this time it's on our terms. You either get treatment or you're on your own." He looked at Grandpa, who hadn't said much this whole time. "I believe you," Grandpa said quietly. "But believing doesn't fix it. You have to do the work." Connor nodded slowly. "Okay." That was it. Not a promise, not a dramatic vow, just okay. And for once, that was enough. Connor promised nothing, just nodded. "Okay, I'll stay tonight." That's all we got. It wasn't much, but it was something. After everything, even a thread felt like rope. That night, Grandpa and I turned the living room into a war room. We stacked documents, snapped photos, printed records. The second mortgage, the empty bank statements, the prescriptions Connor stole, all of it went into a manila folder labeled "For Rachel." Rachel was my old college roommate. She'd gone to law school, passed the bar, and now worked family protection cases out in Nashville. We hadn't talked much in years, but I called her anyway. Within 5 minutes of explaining the situation, she said, "You need to protect what's left. I'll help." She emailed a checklist. Power of attorney for Grandpa, proof of theft, medical records, rehab funding paperwork. "Don't wait for them to see reason," she said. "Start from control." The next call I made was to Aunt Patricia. She'd gone no contact with our side of the family 2 years back. I never knew why. Turns out I wasn't the only one who got drained. "They told me it was for Connor's private school," she said over the phone. "Said he had potential, and it'd be a waste not to invest. I paid tuition for a year. Found out later he dropped out after a month. They never paid me back. Never even said thank you." She asked how Grandpa was. I told her the truth. She offered to write a statement for legal backup. Your mom's been running cons for years, she added. It's not evil, exactly. It's just normal to her now. By morning, we had a plan. Connor would check into treatment. We'd get Grandpa's house listed with proceeds put in a trust. I'd handle legal oversight. No more blank checks, no more guilt, no more waiting for apologies that were never coming. That afternoon, Connor sat with us again. Still pale, eyes sunken, but more present than I'd seen him in years. I laid it all out. You go to rehab, for real, not for show. If you don't, you're on your own. Grandpa backed me. We'll help you once, not twice. Connor nodded. Okay, I'll do it. No promises, no long speeches, just another okay. And for a moment, it felt like we might actually turn a corner. We called the rehab center, a local nonprofit with a program that could take him the next day. Rachel had pulled strings. Grandpa agreed to cover the first month, if only to see if Connor would stick it out. We spent the rest of the evening sorting pills, locking away valuables, canceling shared cards. Grandpa gave me power of attorney over his assets. It was bittersweet, that signature, like handing me the steering wheel while still trapped in the same wreck. That night, Connor slept in his old room. I passed by his door once. He was awake, just staring at the ceiling. You good? I asked. He blinked. Yeah, just thinking. Try sleeping instead. He nodded. Yeah, I will. But in the morning, he was gone. The bed was still warm, the covers tossed back, Grandpa's car keys, gone, so were the meds, and $80 from my purse. No note, no message, just silence. I walked out to the driveway and stared at the empty space where the car should have been. I should have known, I muttered. Grandpa stepped out beside me, wrapping his robe tighter. He made a choice, he said. Now we make ours. And just like that, whatever hope we dared to feel collapsed. Again. But this time, we weren't chasing him. This time, we were drawing the line. I knew something was wrong the second I opened my purse and saw the bills missing. $80. Enough for gas, some fast food, maybe a motel if he got desperate. But it was the meds that clenched my gut. Grandpa's heart pills, his painkillers, gone. I called the police, not to file theft, but to report a medical emergency. He's vulnerable, I told them, addicted, took medication that's dangerous in combination. He needs help. 4 hours later, the call came in. St. Luke's Memorial. Emergency intake. Is this Drew? The nurse asked. You're listed as the emergency contact. I braced myself. Yes. Connor was found unconscious in a public park restroom. Someone called it in. He's in ICU. Stable now, but it was close. I sat down at the kitchen table, the weight of it sinking in like lead. Grandpa stood in the doorway, already pale, already weak, and now he looked worse. You all right? I asked. He shook his head. Skipped my meds. Didn't want to say anything. Didn't want to add more. That was all I needed to hear. I helped him into the car and drove to the hospital. He was lightheaded by the time we got there, blood pressure tanking. They admitted him for observation. 2 beds, 2 emergencies. Same family, same route. I stepped outside to call my parents. No answer. Tried again and again. Finally, a few hours later, Mom called back. I could hear laughter and clinking glasses behind her. Drew, what's going on? We're in the middle of dinner. You need to come home, I said. Now. Why? What happened? Connor's in ICU. Grandpa too. He skipped his meds because Connor stole them. He took the car, the cash, everything. A pause. Then Dad's voice in the background. We'll come home tomorrow. Tomorrow? I said, stunned. You're drunk in Cancun while your father's in the ER and your son nearly died in a bathroom? Mom huffed. Don't make this a whole thing. You always blow things out of proportion. I didn't reply. I just hung up. Back inside, a social worker had been assigned to Grandpa. She was young, serious, and didn't waste words. I've reviewed the notes, she said. Given the circumstances, elder neglect, medication theft, financial exploitation, we're filing an involuntary treatment petition for Connor, and we'll begin paperwork to protect your grandfather's estate. I blinked. You can do that? With proper documentation? Absolutely. I handed her the folder. Statements, loan records, withdrawal logs, medical files. She leafed through it and nodded. This will help. That night, I sat between 2 rooms, one with Grandpa on oxygen, the other with Connor on a drip. Machines beeped. The hallway smelled like bleach and loss. Eventually, Connor opened his eyes. Just barely. The nurse called me in. He looked around, then at me. You okay? I asked. His voice was scratchy. I messed up. Yeah, I said, sitting down. You did. He swallowed hard. Am I in trouble? You're not getting arrested, I told him, but you're not walking out of here either. They're putting you into treatment. No more deals, no more debates. He didn't argue. For the first time since this all began, he just listened. No excuses, no tantrums, just quiet. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't dared hope for. We weren't begging anymore. We had backup. And the state was finally stepping in where love had failed. Mom showed up wearing a sundress like she was coming from brunch, not a hospital. Big sunglasses, too much perfume, hair done like a commercial. She breezed into the waiting area, flanked by Dad in his usual cargo shorts and a polo that still smelled faintly like tequila. I stood up when I saw them. Oh, thank God, she said, marching over. Where is he? In his room, I said flatly. Sleeping. She gave me a quick once-over, then tilted her head. You look tired. Have you even gone home? Not really, I said. Been handling everything since you left. Dad sat down like nothing was wrong. So what's the plan? We get him into a center or something? Maybe one of those private places in Florida? I didn't even blink. That decision's already been made, and it's not up for discussion. Mom stiffened. Excuse me? I pulled out the folder from my backpack and handed it to them. Everything's in there. Theft documentation, Grandpa's financials, the rehab intake forms, legal declarations. What is this? Dad asked, flipping pages. I've got power of attorney now, I said. Grandpa confirmed the house sale yesterday. The proceeds are being locked in a protected trust. Connor's going into court-mandated rehab. You don't get to make these decisions, Mom snapped. I already did. She turned to Grandpa, who had come out of his room in a gown and slippers, leaning on a nurse for support. Dad, she said, voice trembling, tell him to stop this. Tell him it's not okay. Grandpa just looked at her, tired, hollow. I told you years ago, stop protecting him. You never listened. Because he needed us, she shouted. You think rehab is going to solve this? You think court orders and paperwork will fix a broken kid? Dad stood. Enough. Drew, I think it's time you backed off. This isn't your responsibility. I turned slowly to face him. He stole your father's medication, nearly killed him. He overdosed in a park bathroom, and you're still calling it not my responsibility? That's family, Dad shouted, face red. You work it out in private. I looked around. Nurses and hospital security had gathered quietly near the edge of the room, watching, listening. One of them was even taking notes. No, I said, that's not family. That's denial. That's abuse. Mom's voice cracked. Why are you doing this? I turned back to her because someone had to, because I'm done watching this family destroy itself one lie at a time. Then came the whisper. Soft, shaky, barely audible. We don't have the money. I blinked. What? Mom lowered her sunglasses. Her eyes were bloodshot. We're broke. We used the savings. We maxed the cards. We didn't mean for it to go this far. Then why didn't you say anything? Because we thought we could fix it before you found out, she said. We thought if we could just get Connor back on his feet, everything else would fall into place. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. You were never going to fix this. You were just going to keep bleeding us all dry. Security stepped forward then, gently asking if everything was okay. I nodded and handed them a copy of the paperwork. We're fine. Just confirming the legal transfer of care. Everything's signed. They looked at the forms, then at me, then back at the group. All right, let us know if you need anything else. As they walked away, I turned back to my parents. This ends now. No more manipulation. No more guilt trips. No more pretending this is anything other than what it is. And what is that? Dad muttered. A reckoning, I said. This time, we had the leverage and the law. Connor sat on the edge of the hospital bed, hands clasped between his knees, the IV still taped to his arm. He looked small, not physically, but in spirit, like a kid who'd finally run out of places to hide. I want help, he said. His voice barely rose above a whisper. I don't want to die. I nodded. Then this is the start. He looked up, eyes glassy but clear. I'm scared. Good, I said. That means you're taking it seriously. We arranged everything that afternoon. A treatment facility upstate, full program, 90 days minimum. Grandpa signed the final documents. Rachel confirmed the rehab intake with the court. It was all set. Grandpa's house went up for sale the next morning. I handled the agent, got Rachel to create a protected account for the proceeds. I wasn't taking any chances anymore. I also sat down and drafted terms, repayment options for the stolen money, agreements for care decisions, boundaries Connor would need to follow if he ever came back. It wasn't punishment, it was protection for all of us. That evening, we gathered one last time in the living room, me, Grandpa, and Connor. The walls still smelled faintly like mildew and old grease from the heater, but there was a weird peace in the room, like the air had finally cleared. "I'm not asking for trust," Connor said. "I know I've burned that, but I'm going to try." Grandpa nodded. "Long as you don't expect handouts, you've got a place to land, just not a place to hide." He smiled weakly. "Fair enough." Then came the part I didn't want to deal with. The call from Mom. She tried to argue again. Said selling the house was dramatic. Said I was turning my back on the family. But I didn't let her control the narrative this time. "These aren't requests," I told her. "These are decisions, and they're not yours to override anymore." She cried. Dad grumbled something in the background about me throwing my weight around, but I didn't care. They'd had years to step up. Now they could sit down. Later that night, Connor packed a bag, just one. No fanfare, no speeches. He hugged Grandpa, then looked at me. "You think I can do it?" he asked. "I think you have to," I said. He nodded, took a shaky breath, and walked out the door with the counselor from the rehab center. Just like that, he was gone. Grandpa turned to me. "Long overdue," he said. "I know." I drove home alone. For the first time in what felt like forever, the road felt open instead of heavy. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I wasn't waiting to be let down. I was done. Connor called the next day from intake. Said it was hard already. Said he was glad we made him go. "I'm terrified," he admitted. I smiled. "Good. So am I." And that night, for the first time in years, I slept easy. Because family doesn't mean loyalty without limits. It means drawing the line and daring them not to cross it. YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.